Ohio State's debuting two new coordinators, one on offense, Brian Hartline, who's been around, who's been an offensive coordinator for a while, but he's finally the play caller for Ohio State. Ryan Day did also just say that he will be in the box, which I think is an interesting dynamic for a guy who's been on the field literally his entire life, whether as a player or as a coach. And then Matt Patricia on the defensive side, who spent most of the last 20 years in the NFL, coaching for the Patriots, coaching for the Detroit Lions, which brings up a question in a world where both sides have so much new quarterback on offense, new offensive line, kinda on defense, a lot of new guys outside of 3 returning starters. Stefan, who has more to prove against Texas? Brian Hartline as a play-calling offensive coordinator or Matt Patricia as the head coach of the defense?
I think I lean toward Matt Patricia because he doesn't have, maybe the benefit isn't the right word, but he doesn't have the head coach on his side of the ball, right? Like, Matt Patricia's being given all the keys to the defense, and he's got to go prove that he can continue a really high precedent that Jim Knowles set, especially last season as being Ohio State's defensive coordinator. And he's also doing it with a lot of different moving parts, right? Like, we know what Caleb Downs can do. We know what Sonny Styles can do. We know what David Snake-Benosin can do. But there's a lot of other pieces that you're going to have to figure out. He's going to have to work in tandem with Larry Johnson with rotating the defensive line. He's going to have to work, in tandem with Matt Guerrieri and figure out what they want to do with their safeties when they move Caleb Downs around, things of that nature. So there's a lot of new for Matt Patricia, who's also new here, right? Like, he didn't have the benefit of even watching Kenyatta Jackson as a backup last year. Like, this is all new to Matt Patricia, and he's doing it at a level where I understand, like, he was a play caller in the NFL, and maybe it's not two different calling plays in college football, but it's still a different environment, still a new sense of scenery for him, something he hasn't been around in 2 decades. So I think there's a lot for Matt Patricia to prove because Ryan Day said, hey, here's the keys. Jim Knowles just drove this car 1,000 miles per hour, and it was so successful the entire 2024 campaign as Ohio State won a national title. He's got to be able to step into that role. And sure, it might take time. I'm not saying against Texas it has to look like what it looked like when Ohio State played Texas in January and it was a well-oiled machine. Like, this is week 1. There's going to be some kinks to work out. But I think there is some pressure or at least a lot of responsibility on Matt Patricia's plate to keep this momentum going with that side of the ball and figure out a lot of new in his first time coaching college football in about 20 years.
Hartline or Patricia?
Patricia, I think, for a couple of different reasons. I think, number one, Ohio State has had one of the best defenses in college football the last 2 years. I know a lot of that talent is gone, but there's still a lot of talent here. You have the best defensive player in the sport. Like, the talent is there for Ohio State to where the expectation cannot be, especially coming off a national championship, especially with the expectations of this program, retooling year, he can figure it out as we go. Like, those are not the expectations here. It has to hit the ground running. So he's got to have that ready to go. And then, like Stefan said, you're talking about a coach who has not coached in college for almost 2 decades, or about 2 decades. You're talking about a coach who, at his last couple of stops in the NFL, they didn't go great. Admittedly, like, it is clear as day they did not go great. Now he's coming back to Ohio State. Now he's back into the college ranks. And you could like the versatility that he brings. You could like the NFL mindset that he brings. You could like all of that. But he's still got to go prove it. And he's still got to go prove it against one of the better offensive minds in the sport in Steve Sarkisian, and a 5-star quarterback in Arch Manning, and a 5-star receiver in Ryan Wingo, and the talent that Texas has offensively. He's got to go prove all that. Brian Hartline has at least been around here to where you say his value as a coach is known. And yes, he is stepping into a role that, hey, Chip Kelly did a very, very good job last year, kind of on the whole, but I think Patricia, you just look at the on-field, what he's going to have to deal with. You look at kind of the external factors of Ohio State did make a leap to go hire this guy. I think it kind of, when they lost Jim Knowles to Penn State, I don't think anybody, us or anybody else, really looked at that defensive coordinator role and went, Matt Patricia. Matt Patricia's the guy. I think we maybe said NFL, but I don't think really anybody would have thought Matt Patricia was that guy. Matt Patricia needs to prove that he was the right hire. Brian Hartline, I think everybody kind of expected to be that hire, expected to be that guy. He's been around. Patricia needs to prove something.
I think that's why it's Brian Hartline who has more to prove. Is it fair to objectively say that over the past 6 years, Ohio State's been the most productive offense in college football?
Consistently?
Yeah.
Yes.
Consistently, yeah, probably.
Right. And now we're going to hand those keys over to a guy who's never done it before. And because of everything else he's done as a coach, the expectation is through the roof, right? He is objectively the best assistant coach in college football. I don't even think that's a conversation at this point. I don't think anybody has had a start to their college football coaching career that Brian Hartline has had. When you take in the recruiting, when you take in the development, when you take in the everything that goes into it, he is A+ across the board. So you either have to be in one of two camps for how this is going to go. He is either going to be the next Kerry Combs, where he was awesome at everything that had to go with assistant coaching, but as soon as you gave him the keys to the car, it fell off a cliff. Or you are in the camp of, this is going to be just like everything else. That's a lot of hyperbole. That's not, okay, well, it's just going to be fine. Right? If Matt Patricia is just a fine defensive coordinator and Ohio State has a top 25 defense, fine. They have a lot of young guys who are stepping into new roles. I don't think anybody is expecting from day one to this be the number one defense in the country the way it has been the last 2 years. It doesn't have to be the number one defense in the country. You want to know why it doesn't have to be the number one defense in the country? Because the offense has so many weapons that they are almost weapons of mass destruction. You have Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, James Peoples, Brandon Ennis, Max Clare, and a 5-star quarterback, and an offensive line that actually is not as young and inexperienced as I think the outside world believes it to be. There's no way this is supposed to fail. In fact, there is a level. If the defense is top 25, fine. If the offense is not top 3, we're going to be going, what the heck is the problem? So by that standard, I think it's more to prove on Hartline's end, because he is the reason. His receivers are the reason everybody looks at this offense the way it is. Well, now you're not the guy just bringing the ingredients to the table. You brought them to the table, and now you get to cook them. We don't know if you can cook a good meal yet, even though we are all expecting the meal to be Michelin star because he's been Michelin star at everything else.
Yeah, the only rebuttal I would have to that is, like, is there more of a baseline, though, because there is that blanket of Ryan Day, right? Like, is Ryan Day being there a safety blanket, whereas Matt Patricia, if it doesn't work with him, then who's there?
I think that makes Patricia's job more difficult because there's not a safety blanket. I do agree with that element of it, but I don't know. It's not going to happen, right? But I'm now living in a hypothetical world. What if this doesn't go great? And again, what if this is like Kerry Combs, where after the Oregon game, Ryan Day took play calling ability from Kerry Combs. But as you're saying, there was no safety blanket. There was no Ryan Day, head coach of the defense. So he had to give it to somebody else on his staff. Worst case scenario, Ryan Day says, this didn't go well. Give me that play sheet back. Get that play. So I think he does. That's not going to happen. That is 100% not going to happen. But I'm just saying that is a worst case scenario here. But because he has set a standard so high for what he has been at every other element as an assistant coach, it is now the expectation that that's where he is going to be. And this is an important variable in whether or not he can call plays or not.
The thing, though, since Ryan Day arrived, how many people have called plays for Ohio State?
Just Ryan Day and then Chip Kelly last year.
Right. But what I guess my point would be is, with the talent that you've had and what you've cycled through offensively, coaches, play callers, you would kind of expect this to be, in essence, especially with Brian Hartline stepping up, almost plug and play, right? Is that fair to say?
I don't agree with that. The offense has been ran by the guy who came up with it since he came here, and then who was the biggest influence for how he came up with his offense.
Yeah.
So now this is like Chip. This is not Chip Kelly. I've been a head coach for decades. I've been right. This is essentially Ryan Day's coaching tree coming to fruition right now. Right. This is him and Keenan Bailey and Billy Fessler. This is Ryan Day's Ohio State. And Brian Hartline is the first offering of what that is going to look like. Of, you just spent 8 years learning from this dude. Okay, show us what you've learned. And we all think it's going to go well. But I think because we all think it's going to go so well, you still have to go prove that it's going to go well with the guys you put in place here. That's why I think it's more about, one, what do we think of the ceiling of both of these units? And I think that played into a role of why I chose Hartline. Because if I think one has the chance to be the best offense we've seen during the Ohio State era, and the other one is going to be a very good defense, even if it's not the best in the country, that for me shapes how I'm viewing what to expect on Saturday against Texas and what I'm expecting to happen throughout the season here. Get the text 614-350-3315. We'll continue this conversation there. And wherever you find Buckeye Talk, go listen to that as well. I'm Steven, that's Stefan, that's Andrew. Ohio State, the season has finally arrived. We can stop talking about off-season things and not football things. We can talk about football. Just football. See ya.